Now we continue with Mishlei with Bir Agra. Let's get it up on my screen over here. Oh no. Hope there won't be any trouble over here. Nothing like learning out of real books, telling you. Oh man, am I going to have to close it? Bear with me. A little bit of a technical problem here. I'm going to have to just close and reopen it. I'm learning out of the Otsar Chachma. Just close and reopen. My apologies. Should take a second. Let's go. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, let's go back to. All right, we're up to Pasuk Dalet. Yeah, seems like we did so much. Yes, so few because the Torah of the Gaon is just so densely packed. Okay, so the Pasuk Dalet says, "Let's say psoim arma to give the ones who are, foolish, stupid, foolish, like Shor psoim Hashem." It's hard to. I don't know if we'll see. Matter of fact, I know the Chem de Gnusa also dealt with this. So, what is the Pesi? So the Pesi gets Orma, which I guess really means slyness, but we'll see what the Gaon says. Lenar, and to the young one, Das, he gets Das. Umezima, and planning. Now, you'll recall that we ran ahead with this, in the Chem de Genuza, what he wrote on this in his own private notes. He created like a glossary for terms in Mishlei. So we're going to refer back to that because we should have done it together with the psukim. But let's first say, his pirush that's printed, to go with the psukim, which was written by Reb Nachman Ushkov. So again, the pasuk is Osei Psalm to give the stupid ones or the foolish orma, which really means slyness, but we'll see how he translates it. And Lenar to the child, right? Das umezima, knowledge and planning. Okay, so he says like this: Loses akar she'alomed v'yeda v'gam yikayim. So now we said, the lakachas musar in the previous pasuk, which means that after the first pasuk, which talked about that he should learn, and then the second part, lakachas musar, lakach, is that also to not just know intellectually the right from wrong, but to also be makayim. But now, once you are in this position, that look what he says. After you practice what you preach, practice what you understand to be right, then you could teach others. That's what's saying. So Allah says, this is talking about the guy who already was, he has chachma musar, then lakachas musar haskel. That this guy, once he's refined himself, now he himself could give over to the psoim arma and to the nar das umezima. Allah says, right? So that's one pshat. One pshat is that if you've been matzliach in your tikkun amidas, help out someone else. Right, but the second shot is that even for it's even going on the guy himself that let's say some psoim arma. There's because the first two psukim are what you learned, you understood, and you put into practice. But now you should down for Siyata Shemar. Hashem should add that everything that you know so far should be like Pesi, that it's like nothing. Still, you still are a fool that still needs more armor. You're still like a nar that still needs das. So Mizima and Hashem should give it to you. All right. So you have Siyata Shemar. So now he breaks down the terms, and then we'll cross-reference with the Chemda Gnuza. Lipsoim. So kisuk chachma nechlaka kama minim pratim, right? To be wise, the types of wisdom bred up into like there are different types of wisdom. We're not talking about disciplines. There's different types of wisdom, like different types of intellectual processes that all could be called, generally speaking, chachma. These are talking about now. We're not talking about topics. We're about different intellectual processes that could be all called chachma. Ma'am, and they are chacham. There could be a chacham, and there's an orum, right? And there's someone who's an orum. Chacham hainu mishalama v'kibav yodei arabei. So now the chacham is someone that learned and received a lot of information, therefore knows a lot because of all the information he's received. Ezu chacham halo made me call adam, right? So like the Gaon is saying over here, right? So mamish chacham mamish ezu chacham gufa chacham. Right, is halom we call adam, that you know a lot of things because of what you heard, you absorbed information. And that's the conventional taich, the conventional tirgum of chachma is what a person is makabel from acherim, is makabel from others. Okay, so that's chacham. Fatot v'lomar dvarim tovim metukim. But arum is something else. That's sly. So I said sly. He knows how to say nice things. They're sweet, and with that to seduce. And there's evil in his heart, hiding his heart. But now a guy who could recognize it, as they say, it takes one to know one. But it takes one to know one. If you could recognize that you're being sweet talked and manipulated, that means you be'etzem are an orum, just you're not using it for bad. But like it takes one, no, you yourself have to be an orum, to be aware that you're being manipulated and being sweet talked and you're being, turned around, manipulated, right? Let's say team, and then so now he wants to now like make everything perfectly powerful. So let's say team. The ptoim is lamishu kali peti is a person that's also kal lehit patot. Now I don't think it's necessary from the same root. I leave it out to anyone out there who knows Lashon Shmuel whether he is suggesting they're from the same shorish or not. But I'm not saying he's saying that, but it just happens to be. The petty is a type of stupid guy that's easy to seduce. Right? He's easy to seduce. Kali patot. It's just so interesting how it sounds so similar. Can't help wondering if it's from the same shorish. And it's because you're so innocent. When there are mamias, you just don't know the slyness. So a guy could be like a super genius, but he's a petty if he's missing street smarts, as they call it. He could be manipulated. He could be sweet talked. So it's a type of lacking. It's a type of innocence that's not a good type of innocence. Innocence that you really have to be more wise to the ways of the world, and that's why you get sweet talk. That's why he gets seduced or manipulated. Because there are meals, he doesn't know slyness, right? So now I'm going to make you an arum in a good way, because you have to be sly to recognize when a person's coming to trick you, seduce you, manipulate you. You have to know what it is, to watch out for it. So the petty was easy to be seduced or manipulated. He has to get armor. He has to get some street smarts. He has to get some slyness so he can know to recognize it and watch out for it. And it's like the Pasuk says, Ani chachma shachanti, I am wisdom and I dwell with slyness. Right? I guess that's a Pasuk. right? That there's a type of wisdom called Orma. V'yavin pituv she'etzara, and you need it in order to see the seduction of the Yetzirah, right? The Chofetz Chaim said you have to be a kluger, you have to be sharp, which that means it's like a street smart type of guy to be an Oved Hashem, because the Yetzirah, you can't let him out con you. You got to out con him. Emikesh tispato. And so that's you need Orma. Okay. Lanar laosan shein rek mi chachma v'enio de klum. So nar is like launch a kid. In Yiddish, the nar means a fool, and I'm wondering if again, a question for the linguists out there, whether nar in Yiddish that it means a fool doesn't, is it just that they took the Hebrew nar because the young are stupid, right? But stam, generally rake, generally empty. Rake mechachma. When you're there, klum, right? They don't know anything. Yitin lahem das umezima. So they're going to get knowledge because they don't have any. So you're going to give them das, knowledge, umezima, and planning. And that's pnimius v'chitzonius. Very interesting. So he drops a hint that the difference between das and mezima is one is pnimius and one is chitzonius. I'm going to go out on limb over here and wager, and maybe we'll see in the Chemda Genuza hint on this that das is the pnimius knowledge. Because we do know that das is pnimius from other things. Das chador mima, it fills the room. It's pnimius. I got a question from Israel earlier this morning. What's this difference between the sphere of das and the sphere of Kesser? And so I said, the sphere of das is the spirit that permeates all the other midas. So it's the aspect of Kesser that filtered down and becomes the neshama of all the other midas, because you should be a bar das with the chesed that you do, with the gvura that you do, with, it should be alpi das Torah. So I'm going to venture that das is the pnimius, right? It's your shikol hadat, it's your guidance system. It's your guidance system, and it's your it should be the driving force behind all you do. It should all be bedas, and the mezima are plans. Now, I do remember that we saw in the, in the Chemda Genuza, I'm going to look again very, very shortly, that the difference between Mezima and Eitzah is that, Mezima is still inside the head, planning. Eitzah is more, one step away from, Eitzah Teva Eitzah is like, the final consultation, the final plan before action, right? So, of course, it made Mezima relative to Eitzah is more pnimius, because it's still just cooking. You're still planning. And Eitzah is the more lemaisa plan of action, the plan that goes directly into action, right? But I would still venture that Mezima relative to Das, that Das is more pnimi. This is the way a person thinks. This is the person's sense of what's right and wrong that guides all his midas. And then there's Mezima making plans based on that. So I would venture that the mezima is the chitzonius of das, right? Hagah, again, I can't tell you. I'm guessing this Hagah is from the Rav Nachum Mendel Shklover himself. V'nir la'aniyas daiti, it says in the Hagah here, shezima metargem atzas chatoin. Mezima, the Targum says, is the eitzah of sinners. Like Eid Zomem, Mizimad, even in modern Hebrew, German means conspiracy, conspiring. Atzas chatoin. Vaynu shitel and nar shein yodea klau, v'ev shel lo la'asot mitzvah v'lo lishar me'averos, eres yelo das she yodea mitzvahs, v'gam lita ech lishmoris atzmo, Mizima shu atzas chatoin, chom mezir shu b'sefer zeh, yiparish al derech zeh. So I think he's confirming what I'm saying, that the nar who's empty doesn't know right from wrong, right? So you have to teach him right from wrong. But he also doesn't know how to, protect himself, to only do the right thing and to stay away from the wrong thing. So that's the mezima. So mezima is kind of like runs. So it's not. It runs very parallel to orma. Orma, and he says, by the way, anytime you'll find mezima in this book, it's like conspiring. Yeah, so now, like we say, you have to be able to do that yourself. You have to have that capability to protect yourself from conspiracies. That's what he seems to say. Okay, so let's go to the Chemda Genuza, because I do remember Imamish. He did address this. And forgive the dog in the background. Here we are. Here we go. So that's what he says in the Chemda Gnuza, like the very first paragraph is like a glossary of terms of things that we'll find in Mishlei. And then he starts going back to actually explain the book. All right, so now he says over here in his entry on Orma, Betachbulot varmiot lifatod. That's what he also says. So he says the same thing. Orma is to be wise and to make all types of tricks and slyness, right? To either seduce someone, or if you have orma, you use it to save yourself from being seduced. Mezima hu machshava mukavet. So mezima is actually deep thinking, and it's a plan. El sheitza nikra poshato zima nikra machshava. But the difference between eitza and mezima is that eitza is very close to the final plan before action, whereas Mizima is still cooking it, still more abstract than Lamaisa, even though it's moving in that direction. It's what we said. This is what he says in his glossary, which is, the first paragraph of the Chemda Genuza. Then there's things that he wrote himself. On the Psukim. Oh, wow. I see there were a few versions that they all put together in this thing called Chandadu. They found other stuff. I'll just check. Look, you guys know we learned this in real time. This is a chavrusa. Okay, here we go. Really sorry, I didn't realize he has a whole nother paragraph where he just starts over again. It's a different likud from the guy. Maybe we should go ahead and do it, but let's just stick to the psukim that we're doing now. He does say the same thing. Roughly, it's just a different lashon. But what I do see is that there's something really good here. That a lot of Kabbalah. He goes that everything runs parallel to what we've learned so far, but he goes through it again al derech Kabbalah. So just saying the same thing, more kabbalistically. And I'd like to go back and do this, but not today. Today we'll stick to the regular pirush in the main text. Yishma Chacham v'Yosef lekach v'Navon tachpos yikna. So let the Chacham live and add lekach. Add lekach. It's lessons. So the Chacham should listen and add lessons v'Navon, and the understanding person tachpos yikna. He will acquire tachpula. You acquire strategies. Strategies. That's the rough way it's translated, generally speaking. Now let's see what the Gaon says. Yishma, Aidei Kona Yishma Chal Yosivod Lekach. So basically, this pasuk is really building on all the other ones. After you've done everything, including that let's say Subtium Orma and Nar, gets Das Umezima. After all that, so Yishma Kol, now listen to all of that. Yishma Chacham, and after that, the Chacham listens. There's already adds more lessons. For Chacham, who Mishlei and Harbe, Lekach Achar Yikach Od. And then so as a Chacham is someone who already learned a lot, but now he wants to get more, and get more from his Rabbeim and add wisdom. Meaning you're never done. After every level, there's still more to learn. I heard from my Rebbe Moshe Shapiro. That's why we call them Talmidei Chachamim. Talmidei Chachamim, not Chachamim necessarily, but we often use the term because the Chacham wants to be the eternal student. So if he's a Chacham, he wants to still be a Talmid. Wants to always learn more. Okay. The Navon, but the understanding one. I mean, Maven Dor Talk. So Navon is Lashon Bina, that you're Maven Dor Talk. You could figure out things based on what you know. You could figure out more things. Zikna Tachbulos, so he who could figure out other new things based on what he knows already, he acquires strategies. Echesh Lahavin Vamar Yikne Ki Lavanas Davar Toiv Chaver Tov Bechdei Lahotzi Piv Kol Davar Vamru Kne Lecha Chaver. So he says it very simply. So Nachbos Navan Tachbos Yikne. Right? The Chacham just adds lekach, but the Navon, he acquires strategies. He acquires. So why acquiring? Why acquiring? Because he says that the process of figuring out, things, right? That's it is a So he references, Knelecha Chaver. Right. So now he's speaking in very shorthand, which is actually very typical of the Gaon himself. And over here is Talmud, who wrote this Pirush from his mouth, is knowing exception. So he's speaking almost in riddles that I will do my best to unpack. So he's referencing, because to understand something good, you need a good friend, and it's state Knelecha Chaver. Okay, so I think it has to be, so Asel Charav, Knelecha Chaver. So now I think this has to be cross-referenced with another famous Mishnah of this, that Rebbe says, Harbe Matir Bosai, right? I learned a lot from my Rebbe. I learned even more from my friends, and he mitamida yoser mikulam. Right? But so now we're not going to get into Talmidim now because we're not there yet. But he says that Rebbe says he learned more from his friends than from his Rabban. How could that be? How could that be? Right? So he's saying over here that your Rabbeim gave you your axioms, but with the Pilpul Chaverim, you argue like how to understand what the Rebbe said or what you could build on it through the Chaverim, right? You come to the derivations. You're Maven Dormi Tochdarim because of Pilpul Chaverim, and that's why you should have a Chavrusa. And you don't need a Chavrusa to better understand, better be Makal from your Rebbe. From your Rebbe, just listen well. You don't need a Chavrusa, just the opposite. He would distract you. You just have to listen to your Rebbe and your Yosef Lekach. You add lessons, right? You add lessons, right? But, you need a Chaver, right, to be Mafalpa with, what's Nichla on what the Rebbe taught. What can we derive from it? A Chaver helps you with that. And so he says, Kanelecha Chaver. Now you got to buy a friend, you got to... as I heard from my Rebbe Moshe Shapiro. He told me the first time I met him, we had a very long talk. We spoke about a lot of things. You got to invest. You got to. A chaver has to be acquired. I think he told me at times some first you even should be willing to pay people to be your friend. That's the principle of the psychologist. He's your $500 an hour friend. But let's not get into that. So he's saying, the chaver have to be caught. So the tachbulas, which you get from Bina, which and you could experience Bina through chaverim, they'll help you in that process of being maven davar mitoch davar, and that's the yoser mechaverai, adding on harbe lamati meraboisai. So you said to be kone chaver to have the Bina. So also tachbulas yikne. But I'm sure there's got to be a deeper shot to that, which it's got to be a deeper shot to that. I'm sure what I said is true, but just scratching the surface. Okay, we jump ahead to the Chemda Genuza, see if we pick up some hints from there. I really feel bad. My Sifriya, I have a wonderful Sifriya, and I have like the Philip edition of Mishlei from where he puts everything on the same page. Obviously, whoever put out that wonderful edition didn't give Rishus to Osra Chochma to take it. It would have really helped a great deal. So in the first paragraph, where he has this glossary, he doesn't speak about it. So in the next paragraph, which we say we have to revisit for some of the psukim that we've done already, I meant the third paragraph, because there's a lot of good stuff that's more al pi omek hasod. So maybe next time we learn, we'll start from there. Okay. So he was something very interesting. He actually threads together this pasuk with the psukim that we opened up with. So he starts over here with let's say so Ptayim Arma. Can I get Arba Bonim Dibra Torah? We get Karba Arba Shekodam, right? Now beside Keneged Arba Bonim Dibra Torah, so now he's speaking Kabbalistically. We know all fours, which are also the fours of Pesach, connected the four oisias of the shame, Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, and also connected Arba Bonim Dibra Torah, it's also somehow parallel to the Arba oisias Hashem. There's always some type of parallel. All the fours are somehow parallel. So he's saying over here is also speaking about four types of people that need wisdom. So now we know that the Yud and Hey of Yud K Vav K, Yud is Chachma. So he says Yishma Chacham. That's the Yud, right? And then there's Navon Tachpulas Yikne. Right, so Navon, right, that's connected to Hey, which Kaidu is the meat of Bina, Navon, Bina. So Yud, Chachma, Yishma Chacham, Hey, Bina, Vinavon, Tachpulas, Yikne. Regular Musar, now connected to Musar itself, right? Omar Na'ar. Now it says Na'ar is connected to Musar. V'hu she'eno yodea ha-Musar, he doesn't know the Musar. V'zel Pirish Shel Na'ar. And that's the definition of a nar, right? He just doesn't know Musa. He just doesn't know better. He doesn't know the discipline, right? So I'm going to guess that he's parallel to the Vav of the divine name, because I know the Malach Matat, was connected. The Vav of the name also is also called Na'ar. Right, it needs to be educated. It has to get das, and that's what didn't we just say a few minutes ago? Das is the pneumius, the neshama that fills the 6 spheres of chesed through yesod. So it really stems nicely. So the nar needs das. Das is the neshama of the chesed gvor tveres netzachod yesod, that all your meisim should be bedas. but the nar needs to get the das. But the pesi, he is one that gets seduced by the eitzes the Sahara, and he just can't control himself in what he does. Right? That makes sense. It could be connected to final hay, that the midah of Malchus is Raglea Yordos Maves. That's where the Yetzer has most foothold, right? In the lowest midah, the midah of Malchus, the final hay. That's stuff that we're learning about in Reishis Chachma, which you have to start in just a second. Be'eneged Beis Musar now, Be'elu hu, right? Okay. It's hard for me to make out over here. Right, these are the two types of Musar we said for it looks like it's Rosh Hashanah's Tovara Kanal. Right? It's there's the struggle of good and evil, that we mentioned before, right? Because Das sees the good and sees the evil, right? And it really he refers to something that he said earlier that we have to revisit next time. I think we're going to start from this third paragraph of Chem Gnuza next time we learn to go through all the psukim that we did so far, more al derech sod. Now the psoim get orma, and the nar gets das. So the way he's saying it is that das umezima is like, what is good? What is good? What is good? Right? The tov. You just got to know what's good, and you got to plan accordingly. And orma is more like what is bad, because we said orma is generally slyness, right? It's what is bad, but you teach him what is bad so he could guard himself, because he's always being easily seduced, right? But he says, but in Chachma and Bina, and these high midas, ein beim hifach, el yishma Chacham Yosef lech v'rav tavos yirkneh, right? It's all goodness in Chachma and Bina, that's above where the Ra is Sholate. So there's no, but Musar, which is a antidote to where the Ra is. So where the battleground of where Ra is Tov versus Ra. Musar identifies the good side of the battle, and it also identifies the bad side of the battle. The Nar needs the Das of Mazima for the good side, to recognize the good side of the battle, and the Psoim, who are kind of like captive by the Yetzer Hara, need Orma to recognize that they are prisoners of the Yetzer Hara, have to see the trickery that they are being subjected to in order to try to extricate themselves and outsmart the Yetzer Hara. And Arma is again, that's to be very wise with street smarts, with slyness against those who are trying to seduce you. That's why the Nachsh is called Arum. It was called Arum's most sly. He seduced Adam Chava. Psoim and Adam Chava were Psoim that were seduced by him, manipulated by him. Right, we did this already a few times. Mezima is the Eitza Muka, the planning, but it's more abstract than Eitza. Well, now Shechasi Diasa Musr, Daasa Musr, so it's indeed, like I said, the Nar that just doesn't have knowledge. He needs the knowledge to know Das Musar, what's right. He also needs how to put it into action. That's Mazima. Havel Pesi ain't Torah, but the Pesi just needs Orma because he's already captive by the Yetzer Hara. Das Umezima. Now, Kaido, that the Nar versus the Pesi is like the difference between Zachar and the Keva. That fits so well with the way I speculated that the Nar would be connected to Vav, which is Duchra, right? And the Pesi will be connected to final Hay, which is Nukva. And we know in the division of divine lights, the Zachar takes 2/3 and gives, and surrenders the third to the Nekeva. So the Nar is getting the Das Umezima, and the Pesi is getting the Arma and Baruch Shekivanti. Okay, there's still a lot to unpack. So Yeshua, well, now we're getting to the part that he says on the pasuk we just read. Yishma Chacham. Right, that's so the Chacham learns. That's why also what he learns is called lekach. It's called lessons. The lessons are called lekach. He's lokeach. He takes it. He's absorbing information from us. He's lokeach wisdom. So his learning is called lekach. Lekach tov. It's called lekach because he's being lokeach that information from others. Novan, even though we talked to our Matzah, but the Novan is a guy who figures out new things based on old things all by himself. So Tachbuas Yikne, he acquires strategies, strategies of, strategies of how to construct proofs to derive things based on things they already knows. So now, so the Chacham, the Maven, the Nar, and the Pesi, those are the Arba Bonim over here. The Chacham, the Navon, the Nar, and the Pesi. Now, how that corresponds to the four Bonim of Leil HaSeder? Well, Chacham, I guess the Nar is the Tam, and I guess the Pesi is the Russia. So who's missing? All right, the Sheni Odeh Elisha. All right, I have to figure out how to work it out. All right, leave it up to you, the audience. Okay, we're running late for Reishis Chachma. Let's get this done. There's a cause to call Ben Anar Shechasar Das Bepesia Sheodea Elosheno wrote Seba Machas Petiuso. And now this book, helps everybody to all types of kids. There's the Nar it's Chasar Das, right? And it's a Pesio Del Shen wrote Seba Machas Petiuso. But there's the Pesi who knows he's not right, but he just doesn't really want to hear of how he's, he deep down he knows he's in the wrong. So I guess the Pesi is, the connected to Russia. He's Yodea Shen wrote Seba Machas Petiuso. Chen Lechacham. Vaflin Navan Shavin Mashal Litzah, so the Chacham also, and even the Navan they should also know Mashal Litzah, like Koshpirish Achareza, Shapasuk Achareza, as we explain in the next pasuk. Okay, Belina, next time we learn, we're going to go from this paragraph of Chemda Gnuza, which I didn't even notice before, and start from the beginning, because he says a lot of Yisoidus al Pi Kabbalah, or Omek HaMachshava, that are Kedai to see. Okay, we stop here.